SMT Nation, we back. Nation, we've got some statements out of Verizon, and they're pretty telling. They're very interesting. Really important to some of the stuff that we cover here on the channel. I want to go through some of them. I'm not going to cover everything in this article, but I want to stick to some key points, and that is Verizon and the MVNO agreements that they have with big cable. And some of the comments from the CEO of Verizon, Hans Vestberg, may be kind of, I don't know, forward-looking as to what might be coming down the pipeline with respect to how they monetize their network and how they sell access to big cable. All right, so let's take apart some of those elements here in this video. Link for the article will be in the description. And don't forget, if you want to support your creators, show your appreciation for the content, there's ways to support us down in the description. Okay, so speaking at the most recent Goldman Sachs Communicopia Technology News Conference, Investor Conference, whatever, there were questions going to all the CEOs, T-Mobile CEO, AT&T as well, and also Hans at Verizon. And we know how involved Verizon is with respect to the MVNO space, monetizing and selling their network access to different companies, especially big cable, right? They're the big growers. I don't know, it's like 8, 9, 10 million customers, right? It is a substantial piece of what they do. Now, speaking at the conference today, Hans, the CEO of Verizon, dismissed the cable MVNO strategy of giving away free lines or heavily discounted subsidized lines when they bundle with the home internet or home broadband. His quote, "Lowballing and discounting won't help us." Folks, he is absolutely correct. They're in a position at their company where they have accrued a lot of debt. And that debt has matured to the point where things have to get paid, right? And when you have that maturity on the debt, there's urgency to be able to make payments so that way you can pay down the debt and not have to, deal with penalties and additional increased interest rates and those types of financial issues. There's urgency for them to respond to that debt load, and they have investor responsibilities to respond in that way, and they continue to offer a dividend. They're spending $18-20 billion annually on CapEx. You guys see where I'm going with this. There comes a cost to operate the way that Verizon does. It has to be passed on to the customer. Verizon, to their credit, they're true to their words here, right? Lowballing, discounting won't help us. They just ended the entry-level pricing of the fixed wireless access 5G home. It used to be $25 a month for the entry-level plan. They bumped it up to $35 with the discounted bundled price. So they're being true to their word. Now comes big cable in all of this. You have Comcast with XFINITY Mobile. You have Charter with Spectrum Mobile. They both run as MVNOs on the Verizon Wireless Network. They have full access to all the network assets, 5G, UW, the whole shebang, right? And those MVNO relationships are perpetual, right? So they are something that is going to continue through, through the future. And we have been looking at some of the potential for Verizon to possibly look for ways to continue to monetize their network. And the one thing we don't know about is how much Verizon charges big cable for access on the network. We have a rough estimate what a cable customer's use on Verizon looks like. It's estimated to be valued at about a $30 ARPU for Verizon. But is there a lever to pull where Verizon could make more money off the cable MVNO customer? Now, here's the quote. When asked about the MVNO relationships and if they will last and how long they'll last, Vestberg declined to provide details with respect to the MVNO's structure with payment, right? So those are obviously contractual. They're on the hush. Not something he could disclose publicly. And he never does, right? He never talks down on them at earnings conferences and publicly. You got to tread waters lightly. He did say that any MVNO partnership will be beneficial to Verizon's revenue. And he also added that any of Verizon's partners can realize that as the network improves, quote, they will have to pay for it. That, to me, folks, sounds like price increases on that wholesale agreement, which is very interesting. How much can they increase? Does there come a point where cable starts to look at, hey, let's explore AT&T's pricing. Let's explore T-Mobile, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think they're going to want to be on the T-Mobile network. I don't think they like or get along with T-Mobile at all. That's very contentious. That would be a shock, right? But I could definitely see an AT&T potential. I'd be a little bit worried about the capacity. But if they were to increase, the reach of the pops of the 5G plus, we might have something there possibly. But who knows? But I know they want to monetize. I know that for a fact, right? They just started doing fixed wireless access. So this is interesting, folks. This is the first signal from Verizon that a possible remonetization of the network through cable and MVNO could be upon us. This could be big. And folks, 10 million customers or whatever is on cable MVNO, that is nothing to sneeze at. If Verizon was able to increase ARPU on those accounts by 10%, think about that as a revenue stream. Right? They're literally pulling a lever and adding free cash flow right off the rip. And of course, forward looking, what does that look like as they continue to remonetize beyond that point, right? And then there's precedence for price hikes and increases. And then, of course, I think that probably makes big cable want to accelerate their build of their CBRS licenses, right? So then there's that factor too. I'm telling you, this is huge. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think Verizon's going to do? How do you think big cable responds? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say on this. You all the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.